Welcome to the Home Buying Education Series. This video is going to go through inspections and what we call the second negotiation period. So let's start with the inspections. Once we have found a home and have you successfully under contract, usually within the first week to 10 days, you're going to order a home inspection to be done by an inspector. The fees can run anywhere between like $400 to $600 to have this done. And then if you want specialty things done like meth testing, lead paint testing, those types of things can be added on. So we have the inspection done. What are they looking for? Well, the inspector goes through the house and he checks every single plug in the house. Do they work? Do they not work? Now, if there's a big piece of heavy furniture in front of a plug, obviously he's not going to be able to get to it. But all of the exposed plugs, he'll be able to check all of those. He'll check all the faucets for leaks under all of the sinks. He'll check the electrical box, the furnace, the hot water tank. He'll look at how much insulation is in the ceiling. And he'll look for obvious signs that there has been water intrusion in the past or currently. Then he'll give you this big report. And this report can be like 26 pages long, and it goes through each room individually. Like for instance, there are some people who close in porches and make them small family rooms, but there's no heat source in there. They have always used it with a space heater, but you don't know that until the inspector tells you, hey, there's no heat source. There's not a vent in this room. Those are the types of things you're going to find out. Once you get the report, we'll go through the whole thing and you'll tell me what items you are the most concerned about that we may want to go back to the seller and ask them to fix. So we have three options when we go back to the seller for particular items. We can have the seller fix it prior to closing, and we just have to sign off on that fix. We can have them give you a credit at closing for like closing costs, for instance. They'll pay X number of dollars of your closing costs, and then you take care of the repair when you move in. Or we can do a price reduction. So what's the difference between those? Well, it's pretty simple. If you do a price reduction, unless you're paying cash for the home, that's not going to give you the money to do the repair. It'll lower the amount of your mortgage by maybe $5,000, but that may only save you like $30 a month in your payment. So that's why we typically will go for a closing cost credit. So instead of you bringing that cash to closing to pay closing costs, we let the seller pay those, and your cash can stay in your bank account so that after you get possession, you actually have the cash to do the repair. So that is a very good way to do it. The other good way is to let the seller actually do the repair prior to closing. So let's say it needs a new furnace, for instance. You may choose to have the seller do it prior to closing. One of the upsides to that is that if there is a problem, you know how sometimes you get into an issue and then it creates another issue and you find something else? If that happens, then it's the seller's problem. Honestly, I know that sounds terrible, but if they find the electrical needs to be upgraded to put the new furnace in, the seller then would have to do that once they've agreed to put a new furnace in. So there are advantages to doing that. The disadvantage to having the seller do this is that they're going to probably buy the least expensive thing that they possibly can because they're not going to be living in the home. So when it comes to a furnace, for instance, they may choose an 80% efficient furnace instead of a 95% efficient furnace because the cost. So you as the buyer will have to weigh which one works best for you and for your situation. But that is the second negotiation period. What do we do about repairs? We went a number of years where you could not even ask for repairs to be done simply because there were buyers behind you that would say, hey, I'll buy that house. And you don't need to do those repairs for me. So getting repairs were not very likely. But now the market's a little slower. There's more competition among sellers. So now they're agreeing to do more things to get the buyer in the door and to keep the buyer once they're there. So that is how the inspection period works. I'm Patty Laforte, NoMoreRentalsForYou.com. I help renters become homeowners.